Welcome back to Overthink, the Overwatch game show where I ask contestants hot takes and see where they stand, with the 3 circles representing the disagree stance, the neutral stance, and the agree stance. The lines in between representing the somewhat stances. If you didn't know, anybody could participate in this game show. I have open signups in my Discord server, so feel free to sign up there. Also, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. I also host these live on Twitch, so go follow me there. And if you want to suggest any hot takes or themes for future episodes, please comment them down below as well. In today's episode, I invited 10 grandmaster players onto the show to find out what we've all been wondering. Do all GM players think the same? Let's find out. Before we dive into the video, I'd like to take a second to thank Factor75 for sponsoring this video. Factor75 has sponsored my Twitch streams before too, and it's my absolute favorite meal plan that I've ever tried. So when they reached out to work with me again and offered to sponsor today's video, you know I had to say yes. Factor is unique from other meal plans because the chefs actually already prepare the food for you and deliver it to your door fresh. All you have to do is microwave it for a few minutes and bam, you have a meal that would have taken you over an hour to make yourself. The best part is, there's zero prep and zero mess. And you know, for us gamers, this is a serious win because that means that we could get yummy, good quality food without having to take a break from playing to go cook and clean up all the mess. They also have different plans for people with strict diets like keto, vegan, vegetarian, low calories, etc. So what are you waiting for, gamers? Ditch the grocery store and stop spending all your money on Uber Eats and go get Factor75 instead. Use code FACTORSE43663 or the link in the description below to get started, get a discount code, and also help support my channel. If you weren't GM in Overwatch 1, you probably don't deserve GM in Overwatch 2. Go.
The only reason I'm on slightly agree and not agree is because, okay, I was like Masters in Overwatch 1, and if the ranking system and everything stayed the same, then yeah, I don't think so. But because, I mean, Overwatch 1, a lot of the abilities and characters changed, and one less tank, all the other stuff. So I do think the game is pretty different. But again, I do think that it does have a big thing to do with like the ranking right now. The ranking right now is kind of wonky.
I think there is a bit of a, little inflation thing going on with the rank system. And it's just the players I've met in my lobbies that were, let's say, for example, Diamond. And they're in my lobbies, let's say, inting in the backline of the enemy team. I have LOS of supports, complaining that it's everybody else, but theirs is just like, I mean, you just lack the game sense from Overwatch 1. Like, it is a different game right now, but it's still vital game sense that you lack to be up here. And I do believe in this inflation thing that's going on.
The general opinion is like correct. I think that GM is a little bit. I'll say it's different now than it was in Overwatch 1. But I think the question itself is a little bit too over-encompassing. Like, just saying because you weren't GM in Overwatch 1 doesn't mean you shouldn't be GM in Overwatch 2. Like, I didn't touch comp in Overwatch 1. I was like mid-low diamond in most of my roles, like maybe masters on tanks. But like Overwatch 2, it's like I've actually started getting into the game, played it more. It's a wholly different environment.
Personally, I do think I am fit to be in grandmaster. In Overwatch 1, I didn't peak very high because at the same time I was a DPS player in Overwatch 1. I only peaked like low platinum. But comparatively though, I found it was a bit easier to rank up compared to Overwatch 1's ranking system. I managed to grind from Gold 4 to Master 3 in Season 2. And then I slowly made my way up to Grandmaster, and ever since I've been consistently a Grandmaster support main.
I think for me, or like a lot of players, it's possible to improve. Like, I think if you weren't GM in Overwatch 1, you could be in Overwatch 2. Like, I started watching my own replays, I started getting coaching, I started doing all these things in Overwatch 2. Compared to Overwatch 1, it was like a new chance to become a good player. Like, I was barely masters in Overwatch 1 and GM. But there is the point of the inflation, and there is a lot of players that don't deserve to be in GM. But I think there's definitely a lot of people who also improved. I think Overwatch 2 seems to me a little bit more, at least among the people I know and play with, they take it more seriously, but also there's a lot more casual players, so.
Okay, I feel like everyone deserves to be in the rank they are right now. Like, obviously there are some complications about, like, if they really deserve to be in that one. I feel like so many things have changed, like the inclusion of clans like the Kiriko and like Junker Queen, everything that has changed, and there's many things that you need to learn now. So it actually makes it more into sense that you can actually rank up because now you know how to play this game and everyone is still learning. So there's obviously the advantage of people that were Grandmaster in Overwatch 1 to be on Overwatch 2 a Grandmaster player too.
So Sleepy did mention how they were gold in like at the end of Overwatch 1. I wanted to open a discussion on like honestly like how does that make everybody feel in here? Like do you guys, if you see somebody on your team where they're in your GM game but they were like a gold low plat peak in Overwatch 1, how does that make you feel? Do you guys like get upset? Do you guys think like, oh, okay, they grinded and got better? Like what's your take on it?
I think what people are failing to realize a lot of the time is that, so if we look at Season 1 of Overwatch 2, until they made the matchmaker change, top 500 was literally, like, the bottom was GM4. There were probably, like, 1,000 GM players total. So what we're seeing happen, and then obviously Bronze 5 was just full of Bronze players. And what we've seen is like a change in the way that the skill curves work. So like we were seeing way more GM players, but that's just because the way that GM is being like quantized or what's the term here? I'm trying to think. I don't know. The way that you qualify into GM, like the bar is being lowered, but that's just because we need to change the way the ranks work. We can't just add a million different ranks so we can cover the huge thing. That it's not practical. So like usually if I see like a plat player who's like in like maybe like GM3 is usually where I'll see them. It's like, well, okay, one, they're getting pushed up because we have to like change the way that the bell curve is, so that way we're not just everyone's low elo. And then two, like they probably just improved a lot. Like I would see people who went from like bronze to GM in like 3 seasons in like Overwatch season 1 through like 7 all the time, and that was kind of typical.
Well, hearing that, I'm glad that there's been improvement, and I really hope there has been improvement, right? When I hear that sometimes and I see like plats in like my lobbies, right, it's kind of devaluing what is GM, because right now I'm GM1 top 500 as a support, and when I get someone that was plat and clearly doesn't know how things run, I guess around here at like the higher elo, it's pretty obvious, and it kind of devalues being a GM. I hit 4-3 in Overwatch 1 and I kind of stopped, but now I'm back into it, top 100. And now it's kind of like, okay, then what's the point of me being top 100 when there was like a gold plat in Overwatch 1, very last season, 100 games played in my lobby.
I don't believe in rankism. I don't think we should shame people for their past ranks, because a lot of people have had low ranks in the past. Like when I started playing Overwatch, I was in bronze, but then I hit GM like later on, like after a bunch of seasons of like working and getting better. And some people's journeys are faster, and that might just be because they got like coaching or they got good at like a certain hero that was meta that season and stuff. But I still think it's valid that they're in the elo, and if we're gonna be good teammates, we should play around them.
I actually started all the way on bronze on season 2. It was season 2. So I had friends that they played, and they were gold on that time, and they literally didn't want to play with me because I was bronze, like not even quick play, because only because of that. But then after the seasons went by, I think I went to season 4 and I climbed all the way to masters. And like now they used to, like they try to contact me for me to play with them, and I felt like only because it's the rank that I like most players see, it's not much how like that people actually feel, because when you're playing and they call you like, oh my god, you're actually plat on Overwatch 1, why are you playing here, you should not be here, I feel like they're actually hurting the people behind the screen because they work hard for that rank, and like it's not nice for them to be shamed on that.
I think 5 stacking should be allowed in GM. Go.
I think that 5 stacking should be allowed in GM, because like honestly, if they just made it so that you were against other 5 stacks only, I think it'd be fair, because they wouldn't disrupt like normal play and like people who are solo queuing and stuff. And it would just allow for content creators to stack, it'd allow for teams to like build synergy and comp and stuff, and it would just make it a lot more competitive of a version of comp to play.
I think it could be a good idea, but it has to be like not regulated per se, but like Nyan said, it's like I think it'll only be fair if you go against other 5 stacks. Because like I wouldn't want to be like randomly queuing at like 11 p.m. one more comp match before I go to bed, and then I run into the San Francisco Shock. So I think it should be like only 5 stack against 5 stacks.
I don't really want it, because there's gonna be the problem with 5 stacks is when there's a lot of good players playing, it becomes a problem. Like what you said, like when Overwatch League teams or whatever, or just like contenders teams, or even just normal scrim teams, if they start 5-stacking in comp, they're gonna get so high, and it's almost gonna like skew their, like if they start solo queuing, then they're gonna get rolled because they're not actually that high up. They like need their team to climb in ranks.
So yeah, one very obviously, Overwatch League players is, yeah, that's just gonna create issues. Like there is no fair matchup between Overwatch League and anything other than Overwatch League. So if you're like high GM1 top 500, even like a contenders team, and you queue into like San Francisco Shock, like it just sucks. Like I mean, it's probably cool at the time, but like when that becomes a regular thing, like that just sucks. But then there's two other things. One, boosting. If you remember on the Brazil top 500 in Overwatch 1, teams would 6-stack at 2 a.m. And because they couldn't find matches, it would pull up like gold 6-stacks. And then they would just beat them like over and over again to get super high ranked. That was actually like a huge scandal for the Brazil Overwatch World Cup team at the time. But then the other thing is, think about what that's going to do to the queue times. Like, my queue times for top 500 are already like 20 minutes. Think about how much worse it's going to be if now like half the player base is 5-stacking and you have like half the number of people playing comp.
Support is the easiest role in the game. Go.
I think support's the easiest because you don't have a crazy amount of responsibilities other than like create opportunities and heal, and obviously do a little bit of damage. For like a tank or a DPS, you gotta keep track of, you know, cooldowns. You gotta make sure that you're taking space. You gotta make sure where you're positioned a lot, because you could easily get bursted down, especially as a tank. Tank was probably one of the harder ones to climb with, because you just kind of just are being like puppeted by like your supports, and that's why I feel like being support is just the easiest, because you just have a lot more control over the game.
Like, I disagree with what Diana said, where you don't have that many responsibilities, but I think it's a smaller amount of responsibilities as the tank in DPS and team fights. In my experience, at least, I've climbed, masters above or even top 500 on multiple different accounts on support just by playing, let's say, Mercy, Honor, or BAP. And from my experience and the people I know, it wasn't that much of a struggle for support rather than DPS and tank.
And I love this discussion. I've written papers about this. So when we're talking about hero difficulty, usually the conversation is really vague, because it's like, okay, are we talking about skill ceiling, skill floor? What's the situation here? There's no context. But outside of that, what often people will like source is, well, DPS have so much more responsibility. Like, you have to be hitting your headshots and whatnot. And while that's true, I also think in a way that makes them a lot easier. Because as like a Widow, for example, you can get 2 picks and instantly win a fight. But as a support, how do you do something even close to that? You work a lot harder and you get a lot less back. And this happens for most heroes who have lower skill ceilings in general. So for example, Mercy. It's like, as Mercy compared to maybe like Ana, like you have to work a lot harder to get the same kind of value. Because Ana can hit like a nade and kill 5 people. Like, she can win a team fight on her own. A Mercy can't do anything like that.
So personally, I think when it comes to playing support, it's not just healing. You have to take account to other things like your positioning, your teammates' health bars, whether you're gonna get dive and stuff. Out of the 3 roles, I think DPS is probably the easiest role to play. Like, DPS is like, say, Bastion or like Torbjorn. They don't take much brain power to play.
I think DPS is easily the easiest role, because like they're pretty much split into 2 things. You have hit scan, you have projectile. Hit scan, their entire thing is like herder, I shoot head. All they have to do is like learn how to aim, which there's a lot of resources to do with like all the aim trainers and whatnot. And like new players, like players that have like just gotten into the game, I guess like when Overwatch 2 first came out and the ranks was a little bit weird, people are getting like GM and top 500 and whatnot. And it's like all you have to do is really aim. You don't even need that much game sense. You just play hit scan like Ashe, Widow, Soldier, and then you can just hard carry matches. I think support is one of the hardest roles in the game, depending on the hero.
So the debate topic is, support is the easiest role in the game. And go.
Okay, I would like to start, because I think a really good place to start with this conversation is that usually when we talk about roles being easier or harder, things are very anecdotal, and it just comes down to, this is how I feel. But if we look at like an actual example for, I think a really good example of this is season 2 of Overwatch 2, where Mercy was really meta. And I think what a lot of people would say is, oh, well, Mercy's so easy. But what was always jarring to me is that all the Mercy players at the time in top 500, they were all like Mercy 1 tricks, or like people who were like maybe GM2 who at the time climbed up because Mercy was good. And my I guess, argument is, well, okay, if Mercy or support is so easy, then why aren't these other support players flexing over to it, or these other like role players flexing over to support and then taking over the role from support players? And then the other example is Overwatch League, where obviously we're not seeing DPS players getting drafted in as supports. We're seeing support players getting drafted in as supports. Like, Jonak was never a DPS player, just as an example.
I know when we actually had this question up, I said that DPS was the easiest role. I think, like, the opinion is, like, can still change. Like, my opinion, all like is changing. It's like 24/7. But it's like, I think support, like, baseline is like a pretty standard role, like pretty easy role. Like, it's got a, I still don't know if I'm using this right. It has like a low skill floor. Like, you can kind of just start wherever, and it's like,
I think it's high skill floor.
Yeah, I think
because that
high
means
skill
you get a lot of value for little effort.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's like a lot of new people just like start on support. Like, when I played Overwatch, I started it on. I think I played like Lucio, Mercy, like those kind of heroes. So it's like kind of like it's a good baseline. Like, it's a good teaching moment, but it's also, once again, if it's a good baseline teaching role, then it's probably generally a lot easier.
I agree. I think in terms of like skill floor, like, yeah, probably the easiest. Like, you can kind of just like pick like Mercy or Brig and like hit things and like you do your job partially. But I think going into higher elos especially, what you'll notice is that 3 players on a team, that being the tank and the 2 supports, basically exist to enable the DPS to do things. Let's say like your support messes up really bad, and I talked about this before. Like, they only have the tank and the support who can help them get out. But like, maybe your Genji dashes in as being dumb. Well, he has 2 supports and a tank, which is like a world of difference. Like, your Ana messes up, like, what does she have? Like, maybe a Lucio to try speeding her out, or like a Winston to bubble her, but like, your 76 gets pushed out of position, then he has like an Ana to nano him to keep him alive, and like Lucio can speed him out and all these other things. Like, your mistakes on DPS are a lot more covered than support.
You say that the DPS, if they make a mistake, then they're covered for, right? So think about it from the DPS's perspective, where they have to, go confirm the kill, deal that damage. But the supports just have that ability of like, oh, here's an immortality field, here's a Suzu, here's a TP get out of jail free card, right? And so it's like, that is why I think supports are the easiest role, because it's just like, oh, I have this get out of field free jail card, and the DPS kind of doesn't.
If you're using your like immortality or your Suzu or your nade on yourself, your utility isn't being used in like more efficient ways than it could be. So if Genji is just that
myself.
but
no, he's talking about
like
he can just like emote someone to help them get out. But
right.
I don't agree with that, because I mean, like, DPS also have those abilities. Like, Reaper has Wraith, Genji has his deflect, like Tracer can recall out. Like, that's not exclusive to supports in any way. A lot of what this conversation comes down to is what I have been calling vehicle theory. This is something I've been working on for about 2 years since I've been playing League. And the idea is that usually when we talk about hero skill expression or balance, we're thinking of things as vehicles, when really the game is more like a race. So a lot of people be like, for example, in Overwatch, like, oh, Tracer's very hard because she has all these different things to pilot. And Moira is very easy because her like equivalent to a vehicle is like walking, while Tracer's like an aeroplane. However, the problem with this is that we're only looking at how hard a hero is to play, not what really matters, that being how hard it is to win playing them. So sure, like, Moira is really easy to pilot, like, she's really easy to play, like, you're just walking. But how do you compete as Moira with Tracer, who's flying an airplane? Like, you have to play so incredibly perfectly and to such a high level that it's absurd. Which is why, I think Moira is the hardest hero in the game. And again, the other thing that supports this is that, there's very, very few top 500 Moira players, and there's so many top 500 Tracer players. Like, if Moira and Moira is popular, she's very popular in like low elo. If she was so easy, then why isn't everyone playing her at top 500?
To counteract that argument, like, Moira is like baseline. If you think of someone climbing, like someone like that's not skilled at all climbing, you think of Moira. Because Moira, like, her abilities are just like so baseline easy to use. It's like, she's such a high skill floor that it's like, I could bring someone on that's never played the game before, and within like a week, that I could argue they could hit like plat diamond, or maybe even masters, just because of how easy she is to press her abilities. Like, when you make the argument that like, oh, when we're comparing her to Tracer, why not do that like, oh, when we're comparing Ana to Tracer? Their Ana is just like, has to position herself way more perfectly because she has to play for LOS. She has to play for also looking through where she can both avoid and see the enemy at the same time. She has to play for sleep, and then she also has to see, oh, where can I position my nade?
Hold on, I think I see what you're getting at, and I think my response is that, okay, yes, that is difficult, but the thing is that when Ana does all that, the value she gets is like immense. Whereas like with Moira, like, you could play perfectly, do exactly what you're meant to do, like follow your tank, hold left click, keep them alive, and the amount of value you're getting compared to the Ana is nothing. And unlike Ana,
the
you
amount
can't
of things that
adjust
you're
your
doing
playstyle.
compared to the Ana is significantly less.
Yeah, it's not
No,
about
I
how
things
agree,
you're doing
it
is
is. It is
significantly
very much
less.
less.
So
But
then
Moira-
why are we arguing that it's harder when there's significantly less things you do? When on Ana, I have to like aim my shots, I have to make sure I'm killing the right people, I have to position correctly, I have to think about if I should nade or not, if what makes a good nade.
But this is
But
the
that's-
thing, like Ana can do all that. She has the option to do all that, but Moira doesn't. So with Moira, you either have to have a really unique and like specific gameplay like style, so like flanking, or you have to do everything to an extremely perfect level. It's like, okay, yes, all those things are hard to do with Ana, but the value disparity is insane. Like obviously, it's very hard to learn to aim and hit the nades and all of these things and whatnot. But Moira doesn't even have the opportunity to get the value from things like that. She doesn't have it at all. So how do you compete with an Ana as Moira?
that's I don't think that's I don't think that's on how easy Moira is. I just think that's how Ana is just a better hero. Because Ana is like, I would argue Ana is one of the best heroes like in Overwatch. Who do you think of like when you hear Zen? Who do you, give me like a pro player or something extra.
Jonak,
Yeah. So who do you think of when you think of Reinhardt?
Bowie, I don't know.
Oh, what the hell? Yeah, Kalu.
He's
not a pro
Who do you think-
player, but-
who do you think of when you think of Moira?
IRP.
Who?
Moira's lab rat.
IRP.
Yeah, it's like you can't think of a pro player. You think of like a random, just like
Some one trick.
comp loser. Yeah, you don't think of like a actual player. That's just because of how like Moira is like she's super easy, but she's just bad.
The thing is with Overwatch is that we talk about heroes being hard in terms of how hard they are to utilize. But realistically, why does that matter when the objective of the game is to win? It's not about, we're not playing practice range. It's not about how many times you can click the heads of the enemy robots. It's how can you like get the objective. So it doesn't really matter how hard it is to play Ana. It matters how hard it is to win with her. Because that's what the real determiner of difficulty. Good
Just
to know.
Moira is just kind of just like I'm not gonna say she's the worst support hero right now, but
She is. Well, maybe other than
no,
Life Weaver,
Life Weaver's kind of dog. Every other
Sorry.
hero is like playability, and they're all like I would argue every single okay, maybe not Life Weaver. I don't think Life Weaver's like that hard at all. Is like a lot harder to play. Like you've seen you've actually seen every hero in pro play, but like Moira is like so specific that the only time she was ever played was during a comp where Baptiste was just bad.
I think
Because
what I don't
Sandbox
like
is
about
better.
comparing like the end result of winning is like the fact that I have a more mechanically intensive hero and you lost because yours is less mechanically intensive. I won because of it. I think that's a fair trade-off. I put the
Oh, no, I'm not
efficiency
saying that
more
it's unfair.
mechanically
I think it's
Okay, then. Well,
perfectly
then why
fair.
are we arguing that it's a harder hero when it's like
Well,
if someone puts in hours onto something better, then that's you just wasting your time.
Fairness is a different qualifier, and regardless, we're not talking
Well,
about
fairness in
the
winning or losing.
fairness in terms of like the investment you're getting back. Because I'm not saying that it's unfair that you're not getting investment back as Moira. I'm not saying that you should get more. I'm just saying that in general, if you want to play Moira at like a top 500 level, it's way harder to do that than it is to do it with like Tracer or Ana or Baptiste or whatever.
Just going back to the argument that like Moira is just like a worse hero. It's like sure, I will admit Moira is harder than some other heroes. I think Mercy's easy as hell.
Also mentioned this, in my opinion, I think hero difficulty and hero strength is kind of the same thing. Like, I think if a hero is bad, they're just more difficult. Like, Widowmaker could be terrible, but if you're still really amazing with her, she's still great.
And both of you guys keep on saying that she's really mechanically easy, and no one's disagreeing with that. But the fact that she's so mechanically easy, she doesn't have as much to do. She's a bad character, so she has to do a whole lot more to get value.
That's about how easy or how hard it is to get like value on the hero. It's not like just how hard the hero is. There's like two like different arguments. Like if you want to argue about how good a hero is, then you could
But
argue.
I think that these
about
arguments
how-
are the same thing. I think hero strength and their difficulty is the same thing. Heroes are only bad because we aren't able to play them properly. Like, Widow is terrible in the hands of bronze players because they can't play them properly, in the same way that Ana is amazing in high elo player or high GM players because they can play her properly. Moira is bad in the hands of high elo players because she's bad. But that makes her difficult. Moira has no
It's
potential.
difficult. It's more difficult to win because it's mechanically less intensive. Again, there's a lot less things you do as Moira, but that's a trade-off of you picking that hero, right?
Yeah,
I
but-
chose
but-
Ana. I chose
Also-
Ana, and I practiced Ana, and I got to the rank that I'm at playing Ana. And if you choose Moira and I'm playing the more mechanically intensive character, and you chose a less mechanically intensive character, and I'm rewarded for it, I don't see where Moira is necessarily a harder hero.
All right. Well, do we feel like that this debate kind of got anywhere, or do we think that all of our
No.
opinions? No.
It's
I
just
think-
a
I
different
think we won.
conversation.
Can we have the other contestants say who won?
Oh, actually, you know what? Sure. In order. Black Widow, what side won? The agree side with Extor and Artemis, or the disagree side with Halix and Al?
Oh my goodness. I'm
Okay,
so
so
mad. I never
Genji
get it.
and the agree. Okay, Bonnie.
Damn.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Sleepy, who do you think won the debate?
Okay, honestly,
whatever.
I'm gonna just stay decide because we don't know.
Hold on, we need silence.
Wait,
We need dramatic music playing. It's 2-2 right now. Winston is the deciding vote. Okay,
I
whatever
am.
side Winston goes to is the side that won the debate. Not actually, but you know, in our hearts.
All right, I like your standpoint, but the Moira.
Yoink!
To the 1, to the 1, to the 3. I play easy mode and I play to win. I love to die and I like to BRB. All systems checked out. Group up with me. 2 to the 1, to the 1, to the 3. I'm here to party. GG. A giant gorilla can keep up with me. You can't be serious. I'm the queen bee.